El set del Economista en la Convención Bancaria. Les agradecemos mucho su presencia. Hoy tenemos un invitado especial, el señor Michael Wilson, que él es el CEO de Barclays Capital en Canadá. Mr. Michael Wilson, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
That's right. I know you want to speak about the Barclays, but after we go to that, you are an expert in NAFTA, you know?
Yeah.
You sign it. I would like to start this conversation with you talking about, you signed it 22 years ago, something like that. How do you see it far away, I mean, after 22 years?
Well, I look at it in the context of 5 years before we did the NAFTA, I did the U.S.-Canada Free Trade Agreement on behalf of Canada. And that was the driver for us to join the NAFTA negotiations. We wanted to be a part of a broader trade agreement. NAFTA has been very good to us in the sense of the U.S.-Canada trade. Okay. But I have to say it's been a bit of a disappointment. We haven't been able to do enough Canada-Mexico.
Okay.
And one of the things that I'm hoping will happen in the coming years is that we'll be able to expand that relationship. Now that's not to say we don't have a number of relationships down here. A number of our companies have invested in Mexico. There hasn't been enough going the other way, and that's what I think we have to work on.
That's right. So we have a lot of work to do.
Yes.
Between Mexico and Canada.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why we wouldn't do as good as you are doing it with the States?
Well, I think the key reason is we have this great big country
between
us.
Yeah.
And you're preoccupied with the United States, we're preoccupied with the United States. But some of our business people have jumped over the United States and said, look, we've got opportunities in Mexico, let's do so. Bank of Nova Scotia being one. The Caisse de dépôt et placement, or the Quebec Pension Fund, has done a deal with Banorte. Some of our car parts producers are down here. But there's only been one big investor in Canada from Mexico, and I think that would be Bimbo.
That's right. So we have to go more to Canada.
And we've got to work harder.
Why is that? Why we haven't do that? The Mexicans, we haven't done it.
It's cold up there.
No, it's not cold. It's very, very cold.
Very cold.
Do you think the weather?
I'm sure the weather has a bearing on it, but far more important is the fact that the opportunities that Mexican companies have in the United States, right on your border, same with us in Canada. The opportunities are right there on our border.
I think the problem is we sell shorts and swimwear, you know, and you don't buy it there.
Yeah.
The weather you have over there. After 22 years, what are the regrets that you have of the NAFTA?
Well, that's my big regret, that we haven't taken advantage of it enough. The NAFTA agreement has been good for Canada. I think it's been good for Mexico. I think it's been good for the United States. We're the #1 trading partner of the United States. I think you're number 3 or number 2, I forget which, but you and China are very close. So the relationship has been good. The integration of our economies, because of the North American supply chain, has drawn us more closely together. I think the difficulty has been that we haven't had a push from the governments to do more. And this is something that, with the current administration in Washington not wanting to develop that relationship, may feel that it's just not appropriate to put much effort into that right now.
When you see a Mexican and you are in Mexico at a table in your dining room, you see a lot of different things. Let me try to explain myself. You see a TV, which can be Samsung, LG, Sony, a lot of them.
Yep.
Before the NAFTA, we have just 1 or 2 kinds of TVs or radios,
right,
or ketchup, you know. I see the NAFTA in my table, in my house, in the cars that you see outside. Do you see NAFTA when you go out of your office? You feel, yeah, we have the NAFTA because we didn't have that before, or we have this better?
One of the big changes with these agreements is that prior to 1987, when we signed the U.S.-Canada agreement, most of the exports of Canada were in finished products or natural resources, energy and mineral resources. But the non-energy and non-natural resources were primarily finished products. But because we were a small economy with tariff walls, we weren't competitive with the outside world. So what the dropping of the tariff walls forced us to be competitive, but it also opened up opportunities to specialize to a much greater extent for the broader U.S., Canada, and ultimately the U.S., Canada, Mexico market, so that now we are much more productive, much more competitive manufacturer. But we also have specialized in such a way that a lot of our exports now are in business inputs into the major United States companies primarily. And that integration, because we rely on them, they rely on us, has brought us more closely together as two economies.
There's some guy in the U.S. He lives in Washington D.C. in the White House,
yep.
and he wants to change the NAFTA. He says there's another country who's been taking advantage of us. You believe that saying?
I wouldn't put it that way, but clearly NAFTA has been a benefit, probably proportionally a greater benefit to Mexico than to the United States.
Okay.
So if you're looking at this from the United States in a very confined bilateral way, you're saying they did better than us, so maybe they took advantage of us. And that's the political rhetoric that supports that sort of thinking. But I say to you that the fact that we can import from the United States machinery products, that helps our economy, but it also helps the U.S. economy. So we have to broaden the discussion, that this is more than a win-lose argument, because one country may have a trade surplus at one time, another country has a trade deficit. We both benefit from each other because we get things we need and you get things that you need.
If you have the power right now to change the NAFTA, what would you change right now?
It's difficult to say what the changes should be. We have things that we'd like to get better access to in the United States. Some of that would be agricultural products, the rule of origin on agricultural products, beef, pork to be precise, has been awkward for us. We'd like to get more access to the infrastructure investment program, government procurement program, the James Act controlling shipping on the coast of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
We have no access to that. We have no access to shipbuilding programs. These are things we would like to have, but the fact that we don't have them, does that make NAFTA a bad trade agreement for us? No. It's raised us to here, and it's helped the United States and it's helped Mexico.
In the United States, the president, he's saying that he's going to negotiate with Canada by itself and with Mexico by itself. You think we have to go to the table together?
The stated policy of the Canadian government, whether it's the Prime Minister, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, or the Trade Minister, is all the same. This is a three-way trade agreement.
Mm-hmm.
We will enter these negotiations as a three-way negotiation. Now, there may be some bilateral issues. Let's be a little silly here. We're not going to get involved in the discussion that you're going to be having on the wall.
Well, the wall, right.
That's not our business.
That's not your business, you're right.
We have a agreement that has come due that we'd like to put in the NAFTA called the Softwood Lumber Agreement.
Okay.
That is on the table right now for negotiation. It is strictly a bilateral trade issue between the United States and Canada. So something like that would be done on a bilateral basis. You would have no interest in participating in that.
Yeah.
But as a general rule, that would be an exception. The general rule would be we negotiate as three countries.
Let's go to Barclays Capital.
Yep.
You've been on the wheel since 2010, something
Yes.
like that?
Yes.
What's your business in Mexico? What are you looking for in Mexico?
Well, we have a very good relationship with our colleagues in Mexico. We talk to them frequently, and where we can bring business to them or where they can bring business to us, we will do so. I mentioned the relationship that the Caisse de dépôt et placement, the Quebec province pension fund, we introduced that idea and brought the two sides working with our colleagues in Mexico to bring Banorte and the Caisse together, and that was, I think it's a 2.3 billion Canadian dollar deal.
Oh, wow.
So that's where we couldn't have done it on our own. They couldn't have done it on our office here in Mexico couldn't have done it on our own. The fact that we worked together very well, seamlessly, made it happen, and that's to the benefit of both Banorte, but also the Caisse de dépôt.
Well, you have in your wallet the money of the investors that gave it to you to invest. They look with a good eyes. Mexico, they like Mexico to invest in.
Yes.
They say it's a good place to invest.
You know, as I said earlier, I think we could be doing more. I think you could be doing more. You know, we have companies that have invested in Mexico, TransCanada Pipeline, Enbridge, also a pipeline company, Magna, car parts, Linamar, car parts, Martin Rea, car parts. So there's a number of, Bank of Nova Scotia is another. They bought Inverlat a while back. So there's been a significant amount of Canadian investment coming south. We would like to see more
Mexicans
going north.
Because as you were saying, the weather is the weather there, no? I was reading an article that you wrote, and you were saying in Canada the inflation is very low, the GDP is growing, and I was having the sense of you're very good. I mean, you have the best banking sector according to the World Bank.
Banking sector.
The banking sector. I mean, you have everything good. Yeah. What's next for you?
Well, I think there's big opportunities for us to attract investment from other countries. You mentioned some of the things that are good about Canada. I would say that the monetary policy, we haven't had any quantitative easing. We haven't had these artificial means of supporting the economy. Put it in a technical way, the Bank of Canada balance sheet is 5% of our national income.
5%.
The United States is close to 20%.
Okay.
In Europe, it's over 20%. In Japan, it's 70%. So we have a normal monetary policy, and that's easier for people to plan around because they know what to expect there.
The last thing, I was reading that you help people. I mean, you have the time to help people. Can you tell us about the work you've done in that sector? In that area?
Barclays has been very good to me in that they've encouraged me to do not-for-profit charitable work.
Okay.
So I have 4 basic areas. I'm Chancellor of the University of Toronto, and we're encouraging students from Mexico to come to Toronto for postgraduate work. Toronto is number 19, number 20 in the world, number 8 of the public universities. So good education, good diverse population, and I think people would have a great time as a student in the city of Toronto. In the health field, I'm the lead director of the Canadian Institutes of Health Research, which is our major research funder. It's government money. It's a major research funder in Canada. I'm chair of the Mental Health Commission in Canada, and I have a personal interest in mental health. And finally, I'm involved with an organization called Brain Canada, which finances research in the broad range of the neurosciences, from the neurological, like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, to the psychiatric, mood disorders, depression, bipolar, and so on. So it's a wide-ranging sphere of research that they do.
After all that, you have the time to come to Acapulco. We hope that you go to the conference, and after that you can go to the beach.
Good. I've been looking out at the beach from my window.
You've been looking at it.
I am.
That's great. Mr. Michael Wilson, thank you for being here at Economista. Muchas gracias.
Good. Thank you. Great to be with you.